The argument the pyramids of Giza have baffled scientists and researchers for centuries, especially the Great Pyramid. The Pyramid of Khufu is made up of a staggering 2.3 million stones, each so massive that a single stone weighs over 70 tons. And yet, this colossal structure soars to an incredible height of 150 meters, leaving us to wonder how on earth did they achieve such a feat thousands of years ago. I know most of us aren't big fans of numbers, but these numbers are truly mind-blowing. How on earth did those incredible ancient Egyptians manage to lift stones that heavy to such an immense height? Even today, with all our advanced technology, machinery, and modern construction techniques, this task would be a massive challenge. So how, over 4,000 years ago, did they pull off building this colossal structure? They didn't have technology, equipment, or sophisticated tools. All they had were a few basic metal instruments, some wooden beams, and their ingenuity. Isn't that enough to leave you speechless? But what's even more mind-blowing is this: how did these ancient people manage to stack those massive stones so perfectly, one on top of the other, without any binding materials? Were they using some kind of supernatural powers? Or maybe they discovered a construction method so ingenious and so simple that it completely bypassed the need for modern technology or complex tools. A method so straightforward that no one has even thought of it since. Welcome to the Curious Corner, and this late-night episode of Midnight Mysteries, where we'll answer the age-old question: how did the ancient Egyptians build the pyramids? Before we dive in, if you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our latest videos. Now, the topic of how the ancient Egyptians built the pyramids has sparked a wide range of theories. Some of these theories have been outright dismissed, others are widely accepted, and a few, well, they're downright entertaining. For example, the theory that claims the pyramids weren't built by humans at all, but by aliens. Yes, you heard that right, aliens. While it might sound absurd to some, this idea has gained enough traction to inspire entire studies and research papers. Strange, definitely. But in a mystery this big, nothing is off the table. A surprising number of people genuinely believe in this alien theory, even though it's far from logical and nothing more than a wild hypothesis. But here's another bizarre idea that some people have latched onto: the belief that the ancient Egyptians were actually giant towering beings, like something straight out of Attack on Titan. It goes like this: if they were giants, it would have been easy for them to lift those massive stones with their bare hands, move them around, and build the pyramid without breaking a sweat. Simple, right? Well, not quite. And let's not forget the idea that maybe they just tossed the stones to each other like some superhuman game of catch. Of course, this theory is just as far-fetched. We know this because the mummies of the pharaohs and ancient Egyptians, preserved in museums, show no signs of being giants. Their bodies are completely normal in size, just like any other human. Even their coffins, which we've found in tombs, museums, and even inside the pyramids themselves, are all of standard dimensions. Nothing oversized, nothing extraordinary. So, the truth is, the ancient Egyptians were just like us, only without the extra weight from all the fast food. Now, the classic story we were told as kids about how the pharaohs built the pyramids goes like this: that they transported these massive stones all the way from southern Egypt to the current site of the pyramids. Imagine moving 2.3 million stones, each weighing tons, across such an enormous distance. Finally, they supposedly built a massive dirt ramp around the pyramid, rolled the heavy stones up the ramp using cylindrical wooden rollers, and pulled them into place with ropes and sheer manpower from workers and slaves. It's a story we've all heard growing up, but here's the thing: scientifically speaking, for this method to actually work, the dirt ramp would have to be reinforced with steel and concrete, because a simple dirt structure could never bear the weight of 70-ton stones being dragged across it. It would collapse under the pressure in no time. And let's not forget the wooden rollers; those wouldn't hold up either. For something this heavy, you'd need extremely strong steel wheels, not fragile wood. So, this whole idea of using dirt ramps and wooden rollers, yeah, it doesn't hold water. It's just not logical. Even if we entertain the possibility that they somehow managed it, the dirt ramp itself would have been an engineering marvel. It would need to be 10 times the size of the pyramid just to function. Some thinkers even argue that building such a massive ramp along with the gigantic network of roads to support it, and then removing all traces of it afterward, would have been a bigger achievement than constructing the pyramid itself. And scientifically, it's impossible to remove such massive ramps and road systems without leaving any trace behind. Yet, to this day, no evidence of these structures has ever been found, which makes the whole story feel pretty illogical. To support this outdated theory, some modern hypotheses have emerged. For instance, researchers have speculated that while the ancient Egyptians were pulling the stones on wooden rollers, they poured water over the rollers. This, theoretically, would reduce friction and make it easier to move the stones, cutting the required effort in half. But let's shift to another major question. How on earth did the ancient Egyptians transport 2 million massive stones from southern Egypt all the way to the current pyramid site in Giza? Some researchers suggest that the desert area where the pyramid stands used to be a river zone, with channels and branches from the Nile flowing through it. So, they propose that the stones might have been transported via water. But, as we've mentioned, this is just another attempt to justify the previous theory. At the end of the day, it still doesn't hold up logically. And despite all these attempts to explain it, the method raises far more questions than answers, one of the biggest being, how in the world did they lift these massive stones to such incredible heights, without cranes, helicopters, or modern machinery? The simple truth is, no one has a solid answer. So, were the ancient Egyptians somehow using a device that allowed them to negate gravity in certain areas, effortlessly lifting stones as if the pharaoh could just wave his hand and make them float into place? Unfortunately, there's no evidence to support that either. So, let's quickly move on to another fascinating question. How were the stones of the pyramid held together without the use of any cementing materials? Well, the story we were told as kids was that they used something called air displacement, a technique that supposedly allowed them to position the stones perfectly without any kind of bonding substance. In simple terms, they said that the Egyptians placed the stones on top of each other and somehow emptied the air between them. This would create the illusion of a sticky substance holding them in place, like some kind of natural adhesive. But, once again, there's no concrete evidence to back this up. It's all just speculation. The concept of evacuating air between stones would require advanced technology, and that's something the ancient Egyptians didn't have. Now, here's one of the most mind-boggling aspects of the pyramids. How on earth did they make the surfaces of those stones so perfectly level? The stones used in the pyramids are cubes, parallelograms, and perfectly uniform rectangles. The precision involved is nothing short of extraordinary. Imagine, though these stones are supposed to be carved. But think about the reality. The carving is done with primitive tools and basic equipment, which, frankly, would make the whole process almost suicidal. Flattening the surface of 2 million stones requires an insane amount of effort and manpower. So, yeah, the idea of manually carving these stones doesn't really hold up either. And at this point, almost every theory we've heard seems to fall apart. So, that's it, right? Nothing makes sense. Well, hold on. What if I told you that those massive stones, the very ones making up the pyramid, were poured into place like ordinary concrete, just like how we pour cement today? According to Swiss researcher Eric von Däniken and French expert Joseph Davidovits, the stones used to build the pyramids weren't carved at all. Instead, they argue that the ancient Egyptians knew how to create a special mixture in artificial stone even harder than the concrete we use today. This mixture, made of clay and certain chemicals, was heated to create a substance that, once dried, looked exactly like natural stone and could withstand the test of thousands of years. Now, imagine, using this simple hypothesis, we suddenly solve all the problems we've encountered with the previous theories. No need to cut or carve stones with impossible precision. This method would easily explain how they built the pyramids so quickly and with such incredible accuracy. With this theory, we no longer need to transport massive stones over great distances, nor do we need to lift them to such incredible heights. It's a game changer. But how did these scientists arrive at this idea? Well, the story starts with a group of researchers who were searching for a hidden chamber inside the pyramid. They exposed the entire pyramid to a series of scans and radiation beams, expecting to uncover some new secrets. But suddenly, they noticed something strange. Their instruments were giving them conflicting and illogical results. Despite the equipment being perfectly functional, the only explanation they could find was that the stones of the pyramid contained a massive amount of water. Scientifically, such a high concentration of water shouldn't be found in natural stone, so what could that mean? This discovery led them to lean towards the idea that the stones might have been man-made, constructed rather than naturally cut. Joseph Davidovits, in particular, decided to conduct a practical experiment to replicate this theory. He tried to create a mixture similar to what the Egyptians could have used, and lo and behold, the experiment worked. He was able to produce stones of similar size and even managed to make them bond together, just like the ones in the pyramid. Now, the researchers behind this study are working tirelessly to figure out the exact composition of the mix the Egyptians used. And they believe that this formula could be one of the many secrets the ancient Egyptians mastered, just like their knowledge of astronomy, chemistry, and mummification. So, to sum it all up, the stones of the pyramids were likely made from a material very similar to liquid cement, poured into rectangular molds. Once dried, they became solid, cohesive stones that fit perfectly together. And this, it seems, is how the ancient Egyptians built their incredible structure. It's also possible they used this same technique for other monumental buildings like temples and obelisks. In other words, they weren't lifting or moving massive stones, they were pouring them directly into place within molds. Of course, we're not claiming that this is the only way the pharaohs built the pyramids, but it certainly seems to be one of the most logical and plausible theories. Who knows, maybe a new theory will emerge one day that explains it all even better. But one thing is certain, the Egyptians reached an incredible level of scientific and technical expertise in certain fields, expertise we still haven't fully grasped today, even with all our modern advancements. And with that, we've answered the question, how did the pharaohs build the pyramids? As always, if you've got a burning question in the middle of the night while lying in bed, drop it in the comments, and we'll tackle it for you. If you like the video, don't forget to hit like and share. And for those of you who are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss our latest videos. See you in the next episode.